Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, and it brings me great sadness to report that after 600 episodes, the Dre Beats headphones that came free with my laptop a few years ago have finally gone to the big podcast studio in the sky. They've now been unplugged from my Blue Yeti mic after literally disintegrating in my hands. The foam bits came off on each ear, it snapped at the side. It's like they entered some sort of self-destruct mode, saying, "Neil, I just cannot do this anymore." I did recently tweet that I was looking for some replacement headphones, and listener Peter Winters instantly replied recommending the Sennheiser HD 650 or 800 headphones. He said he has used Sennheiser for years for language translation in a company near London, and similar systems are used at Westminster by the British Parliament. High praise indeed, Peter, but this frugal podcaster thinks they could be a little out of my price range. Until we secure a sponsor for the show, maybe. But this show isn't about me and my first world problems. It's a daily tech podcast where we get to hear about how technology is transforming entire industries, especially industries that you might not necessarily associate with technology. And today I want to talk with Ryan Coon from a company called Avail. And that startup is often referred to as the Slack for landlords. Having heard that, I had to get them on the show today. Ryan has been on all sides of the rental process and has a lot to say about how technology is not only making it easier to be a landlord, but also making independent landlords more attractive to their prospective tenants. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Chicago, where Ryan is waiting to tell us all about how technology is transforming experiences for both landlords and renters, and how they help landlords list their property, screen tenants, sign leases, and even collect rent all online. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me, Neil. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Avail. And Avail is an online platform that makes the entire rental process easier for do-it-yourself landlords and for their tenants. We typically consider a do-it-yourself landlord to be someone who's a full-time professional and part-time landlord. So a lot of landlords are full-time doctors, bankers, attorneys, and consultants, but happen to own a couple of rental properties as a side project. And those are really the landlords that we strive to help.
Now, before talking to you tonight, obviously I did a little bit of research online, and I quickly noticed that Avail is often referred to as the Slack for landlords. But can you just help listeners that are hearing about you for the very first time just visualise what kind of problems you solve, and equally what makes you guys unique and stand out from everything else out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a landlord myself, in the past, there were no tools specifically designed for these independent landlords with a smaller portfolio. And that leaves a lot of landlords like myself using things like Excel spreadsheets, pen and paper rent checks, and those things. So the problem that we're really solving is that these independent landlords have never had access to the same tools or professional resources as big managers, as big institutional real estate investors. So what we do is there are 5 main things that every landlord has to do. And we've built this online platform that brings together all of these 5 tools into one easy connected place. So as a landlord, the 5 things that you need to do, you need to find tenants for your vacant rental units. And we do that by helping publish the rental listings for the properties all across the web. Once you get leads for your interested tenants, the next thing that you need to do as a landlord, you need to screen the tenants. You need to make sure that they've got enough financial resources to afford the rent, that their income is high enough, that you're not renting to a convicted criminal, and those things. So once you screen your prospective tenants, the third thing that you need to do, you need to create and sign a lease agreement. So landlords can come onto our website, they can start with one of our lease templates. They can customize all the different options, whether they allow smoking, if they allow pets, etc., and then sign the lease agreement with their tenants electronically. The fourth thing that we do, Neil, is as a landlord, the most fun, and we help landlords collect rent payments. So it's often the fun time of the month when the rent payment shows up. And we do that by providing an easy way for landlords to collect rent payments online. And what that means is tenants can come onto our site. They're allowed to pay their rent either from a checking account or from a debit or credit card. And then the fifth thing that we help landlords with is, unfortunately, one of the negative parts about being a landlord is having to deal with maintenance issues. And unfortunately, repairs come up that need to be made, and we provide the landlord an easy way to track and manage all of those different maintenance requests that tenants will be submitting through the portal.
Now, you did say a few moments ago that you are a landlord as well, and every single startup has a story behind it. So I've got to ask, what was the inspiration behind Avail?
Yeah, the inspiration. So about 5.5 years ago, I was working at a large global investment bank and working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And on the side, in my free time, I was also managing a couple single family homes that my family rents out. And I was using these antiquated tools like Excel spreadsheets that weren't built for managing rentals. And I started one day investigating, how do big real estate companies with hundreds or thousands of properties, how do they manage all of their units? And I realized that there are platforms out there that make managing hundreds of properties really easy. The problem, though, was that those solutions were both too complex and way too expensive for someone with just a few homes. So I looked at that and said, there should be something for all the landlords like me. And so my co-founder and I, we decided to build the product. We actually spent about a year teaching ourselves how to code and launched the platform in early 2013. We've spent the last 5 years building the business, and today there are more than 85,000 individual landlords all across the United States who use our platform to manage single-family homes, condo units, and small multifamily buildings.
Now, you're someone that's been on all sides of the rental process. So in your experience, how have you seen technology not only making it easier to be a landlord, but also making independent landlords more attractive to their prospective tenants?
Yeah, that's a great question. So historically, independent landlords were not nearly as attractive to tenants. And the reason for that is that as a renter, you never knew how professional and how responsible and how responsive an independent landlord would be. So if a tenant is renting from me, they may not know how responsible that I am. And so technology has really given landlords like me an advantage and signaled to these prospective tenants that I am someone who cares about the property, that I am someone who cares about having a professional process in place. And what that does is really helps establish trust and credibility among tenants, and ultimately allows tenants to view independent landlords as being equals with the bigger institutional property owners.
Now, I recently read a fantastic article by you which explored branding. And for anyone that didn't see it, many people listening probably didn't, of course, it talked about Coca-Cola, Mercedes, Nike, etc., where each word brings to mind a specific product or lifestyle, and each brand appeals to a particular demographic. And that appeal doesn't happen by accident. From the recognisable logos to their consistent products, each company has essentially created that unique brand, and branding goes beyond just consumer goods. So it also applies to the consumer experience. So with that in mind, why does branding matter in property tech, would you say?
Yeah, branding matters in property tech for a few reasons. And a couple of these reasons are specific to property tech, but I think they also apply broadly to all companies, whether property tech or not. I think the three reasons that branding really matters and has made a real impact on us and our company and our customers is number one, by establishing the brand and establishing who we are and what we stand for, it has really allowed us to align the interests and goals of our team. And everyone on our team knows the direction that we're going. They know how to think like Avail, how to speak like Avail, how to communicate with customers as really this one aligned team, even though we have several people working on the company and building the product. So helping align the team is number one. I think branding is also really important because it gives customers a good sense of expectation of what they can expect from you as the company. And once those expectations are established and they're clear and that the customer knows what they can expect from you, that establishes a certain level of trust. And as a brand, as long as everything you do is, quote, on brand and is something that the customers expect, well, that ultimately leads to higher customer satisfaction and a lot more engagement with the brand. And then the third way that I believe branding matters in PropTech and more broadly among most technology companies is that it can actually help drive referral business. And just like I was mentioning, the trust and the clear expectations is once you create those happy, satisfied customers, they're more likely to refer their friends and their family members to a brand that they know and they trust.
So if we do have anyone listening to us today that is looking to find an apartment, so your ideal target audience, are there any tips that you would recommend or tech tools to make that process that little bit easier and remove that old way of doing things and all those pain points that we all know and we're all too familiar with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a renter myself, and I've got three suggestions that I typically will share with friends, family members when they're looking to rent an apartment. And the three tips that I often give is, number one, make sure that you find a landlord who owns the property, who is both professional and responsible. As a renter myself, I've had experiences in the past where I rented from an independent landlord. It became oftentimes very tough to communicate with them. They were not responsive. They were hard to get a hold of, hard to reach. And you really just want to look out for people who will conduct the rental business as a professional and someone that you can trust. Very much related to number one, I think you need to look for people who you can easily communicate with and you get along with. And what I mean by that is, as a renter, when you're looking for an apartment, you're actually looking for a place that you'll live in and that you'll call home for the next 6, 12, 24 months. And that's a big commitment. And one of the things that I think is really important is finding a landlord and finding a property that not only makes you happy, but is able to be responsive and that you can easily communicate with. And then my third tip for all of my friends who are renters and who I share this advice with is look for landlords who use technology to manage their rental property. And I'm a little biased in suggesting they use technology, but I truly do believe that technology results in a much better overall consumer experience. I think that landlords who use technology are oftentimes more responsible. They're oftentimes more likely to take care of their property and to really view their property as a business and as someplace that they want their customers to ultimately be happy. I think that all three of these things, I will just add, as a renter, it's really hard to approach a landlord and ask them if they're professional and if they communicate well, because they're all going to say yes. But during the apartment search process, you can start to gain certain insights and make assumptions. And if someone's very quick to respond to a phone call or a text message or an email, that's likely a good indicator. So I would look for all those subtle cues throughout the entire apartment search process, really as indicators of what the next 12, 24 months will look like.
Now, you mentioned the word customer experience there, and a big theme that seems to be dominating 2018, and all the big companies are saying the same thing, which is it's now less about the product and more about the experience. Experience is the new product, some are even saying. And we are living in a digital age of the empowered customer. So why do you think the customer experience is so important in your industry too?
Yeah, I think the customer experience is extremely important. And the reason for that is it establishes trust. And trust is something that I think is important, not only in online businesses, but offline businesses too. And having that wow customer experience can be so powerful in helping a company, helping a brand establish itself and differentiate itself. I oftentimes will look at how other successful companies do things. And I'm right now reading the book, Delivering Happiness by the founder of Zappos. And he talks about how rather than invest in marketing, they really put all of that money into investing in a wow customer experience. And it's lessons like those that really highlight that if you do what's right for the customer, you're able to build a loyal following and customers who will come back time and time again.
For you personally and the industry that you're in now, I mean, what are the biggest challenges and equally opportunities that your clients are facing?
Yeah, so for our clients who are oftentimes these full-time professionals that I spoke about, there's never been a better time to be a landlord. And there are a few reasons for that. I think that interest rates today remain really low. I think the need for rental properties in the country and around the world will continue to grow over the coming years. And then I think number three, technology today is just making it so much easier to be a landlord and to really grow a small business and to become, in addition to a full-time professional, to have a side business that can generate significant income and help you build substantial wealth.
So how do you see Avail evolving with the continuously increasing expectations of your customer? Because we do want more and more and more now, and the standard just seems to be increasingly getting raised, doesn't it, almost on a monthly basis?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that we've talked about a lot lately. So today we have about 85,000 individual landlords who use Avail all across the country. And that's an amazing number. But we also have 200,000 renters who also use Avail. And one of the things that I think has been the biggest change since we started the company is really recognizing that we're not just building functional tools that make renting easier. We're building much more than that. And we're building a community and a platform that brings together all of these hundreds of thousands and millions of renters and helps them connect with and ultimately rent from our network of trustworthy landlords, responsible landlords who will do the right thing. So I think going forward, you'll see a lot more emphasis on building that community of responsible landlords and trustworthy tenants.
So if we do have any tech-loving renters or landlords listening to us right now, what's the best way that they can find you guys online at Avail, and also reach out and contact a member of your team if they've just got any additional questions after listening to us today?
Yeah, so we are online. Our website is avail.co. So any listeners can visit us there. We're also active on social media. on all of the major channels with Hello Avail. And then if anyone wants to reach out, they can reach us at Hello Avail or just help@avail.co.
Well, I'll add those details to the show notes just so people can get you nice and easily. But I keep reading a lot recently about PropTech, which of course is property tech for short. But I've always thought that it was a bit of a buzzword, because there seems to be a buzzword for everything. Would it be ed tech, health tech, legal tech? There's a buzzword for everything, but it's much, much more than that. And if you actually simplify it, it's just technology making life easier. And what struck me by listening to you there is it's never been easier, you said, for it to be a landlord. And technology makes it easier for almost anyone to generate a side income as a landlord too. So it's just another great example of how technology is transforming an entire industry. So a big thank you for coming on and sharing that story today.
Great. Thank you for having me, Neil.
What I loved about today's conversation is, once again, it highlights how technology is enabling us to remove inefficiencies rather than just accept them, which is typically what we've done for years. And in turn, this is allowing people like Ryan and his company Avail to change the world for the better by just removing all those frustrating pain points that we've all experienced. And I'm also fascinated by how every aspect of our lives is now being transformed by technology. But what did you think of the topic today? Or what podcasting headphones I should pick up? Or anything at all? As always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me @NeilC.Hughes. So I'm off to research and look at all those reviews for different pairs of headphones, but I'll return tomorrow with another fantastic guest. So a big thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.